Hello, hello, hello. Sit it down. How's everybody today? I'm gonna get my little stand thing. It's been acting up on me here lately. If I can tighten it down a little bit, we won't have no problem. There we go. Try that again. All right. How's everybody doing today on this wonderful Labor Day? Hope y'all got some good old barbecue down, especially my Memphis folks. That's one thing I miss about the holidays, not being in Memphis. Get some of that good old barbecue. But I hope y'all are having a good time and picking out a good safe time. I know the holiday, sometimes I'm thinking about not doing my message, but like, you know what? It's a day, it fell on the holiday. I'm going to go ahead and do it. Whoever be here, get to enjoy it. If not, maybe they'll watch it later. But this is my time to do my thing, so I'm here. So I give a couple minutes, see if anybody come in and join us. If not, I just go ahead and jump into the lesson. Like I said, post it on my page, and maybe you guys will watch it later on. Got my charger there. Get this. Oh, what is going on? Let me get this shaded. That's what it is. That's what it is. There we go. See if that gets us. Hopefully that gets us right. All right, so you know what? Actually, I forgot. I gotta do my review anyway from the last lesson. So I'm just gonna go ahead and jump into it. And whoever joined in, I appreciate you being here. If you don't join in till later, I understand. Some of y'all probably got the hot dog or hamburgers stuck between your cheeks right now, so I can understand you're not being here. Chris, I appreciate you being here, man. I'm glad you're here. Just got one person gonna hang out with me today. Everybody else must be eating barbecue, but it's all good. We still got to be here anyway. So I thank y'all for joining me today. I'm John Stewart on behalf of the Lost Sheep Ministry, on behalf of River Lake Baptist Church, sponsored by River Lake Baptist Church. And I'm here to bring y'all a lesson tonight. If y'all been following me for the last few weeks, I've been doing a series. We'll start off with just going through the chapter. We're going to be in, just in case you got your books, Bibles open, 1 Samuel chapter 2. We'll start off just 1 Samuel chapter 2, just doing a little lesson out of there, and end up turning into way more. It was way more in depth than I realized until I got into it and the Spirit started revealing things to me. So it's been about 4 weeks now that we've been in 1 Samuel chapter 2. And the last, 5, this is the fifth lesson actually out of chapter 2. And the last, the first week, we did a lesson. We was finishing up looking at Hannah and Elkanah and the situation they was in, where she was begging the Lord for a child kind of thing, and we saw how the Lord had blessed her with the child. The first part of chapter 2, she was basically a prayer that she prayed, showing the Lord that she appreciated what He had answered her prayer. And then we got into this last 4 weeks, last 3 weeks, and then to the course today gonna make 4 weeks that we've been looking at this lesson over, when you hate your children. And basically, if you haven't been following along, what I've been talking about is a lot of things that we do. We think we're telling our children we love them because we do, especially these days. These days, we are more inclined, so to speak, to want to be our children's friends instead of being their parent. And we do things because we want them to love us. We want them to don't want to be the cool parent and all those kind of things. But as we look through this chapter here and the way Eli handled things with his sons and the things that his family went through and going to go through, we realize that being that cool parent and being want to be liked by your child instead of being respected by your child, you actually tell your child that you don't love them when you're doing those things. And that's what we've been kind of looking at over the last few weeks, when you hate your children. And when you hate your children has been a lesson. So the first one was when you hate your children, and the second one actually was when you love your children. We saw kind of in the middle there things that you should do if you love your child. You know, the kind of things that you would do if you love your child. And then last week we jumped back into when you hate your children. And then today is going to be a little bit of mix. It's only got 5 new points. And honestly, my goal is to finish this up tonight. Finish this lesson up tonight. I'm not going to rush it. I'm not saying I'm just going to rush through it so we can get it finished. But we only got 5 new points. So my goal is to finish up these 5 points tonight and finish up this lesson, and then we'll move on to some other things. But it's been, honestly, I don't know about y'all, but I really enjoyed doing this lesson. Like I said, there was so many things in there that I never realized myself, things that I never saw myself until the Spirit started revealing them to me once we got into this lesson. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to finish up the lesson to hopefully finish up tonight, and then we'll start on something else next week. So just a quick review of what we covered last week in the lesson, which is when you hate your children. We went over 4 points, 10 through 14, and tonight, like I said, we have 10 through 13. 10 through 13, then we got 14 through 19. So we only got like 5 or 6 points. We'll see if we can get it squeezed in. Of course, I'm trying to mind my time, and I'm not going to try to rush anything. We're just going to go with the Spirit do for us. But last week, just a quick review of what we went over last week, so I can go and jump into it and try to preserve a little bit of time. Last week we started off the lesson and we went back to from the when you love your children, the things you do when you love your children, to when you hate your children. So last week's point number 10 from last week was when you hate your children, you would not discipline your children. And of course, that's the initial thought of the lesson altogether. That was and I talked about, and I read for you if you remember when I did the intro a few weeks back. And of course, I'm just gonna go through these next little points real quick, just read them all because I've already preached them. If you want to go back, if you maybe missed the previous lessons, please go back on my page, scroll up and down my page and see those previous lessons because they are posted there. But you remember in the intro, I read you Proverbs 13:24, and then I also read you 22:15, and both of those lessons, both of those verses basically say, of course, 13:24 says, "He that spared the rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him be chasten him betimes." In other words, if you really, if you don't spank your child like you're supposed to, especially when they're doing something that's worthy of being spanked, then you actually hate your child. And he said, if you actually love your child, you will spank them every time they do something they need spanking. You will spank them. That's basically what it's saying. And then the other verse was also saying that a child grows up. A child naturally has foolishness in his heart, and the only way to get that foolishness out of a child's heart is by a butt whooping. That's what it was saying there. So that's why I said number 10. It says, when you hate your children, you would not discipline your children. And we saw here with the situation with Eli, with his kids, his sons are very wicked. They were profaning the name of the Lord. They were doing all kind of stuff that they weren't supposed to be doing. They were basically stealing the sacrifices from the Lord. Matter of fact, the Lord gonna kind of get on them about that tonight. They were stealing sacrifices from the Lord. They were taking things from the Lord, the Lord's portion before they got their portion before the Lord even got his portion. So they was really profaning the name of the Lord, and the Lord was really upset with Eli, because Eli wasn't doing nothing about it. You know what I'm saying? It says that he was aware of what his kids was doing, and yet he wasn't doing anything about it. So number 10, when you hate your children, you would not discipline your children, because when you don't discipline your children, it's going to put them on the path of destruction. Number 11 from last week, when you hate your children, others will hate your children as well. And we saw here in a couple of verses where Eli went to his boys like, look, I've been hearing reports from the people of Israel. They talking about you. They talking about the things that you guys are doing, and it's something that you need to cut out. You need to realize that this is not good. This is not a good thing you're doing. People are talking about you. So when you hate your children, others will hate your children as well. And, we kind of talked about last week, there's certain people in your certain kids that you ain't going to want to deal with. There's certain kids even within your own family. If your certain cousin or aunt say, hey, could you watch Little Man? No, you ain't watching Little Man because Little Man is terrible. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people wonder, like, why I can't get a babysitter? Why my kids getting kicked out of daycare? Why my kids getting kicked out of, things of that nature? Is because other people don't like your kids because you don't like your kids, because you didn't love your kids enough to discipline and then teach them how to behave in public. So other people don't want to deal with that neither. So we talked about that last week. When you hate your children, others will hate your children as well. Number 12, and for you ones that just joined in, I'm just going through a quick review of what we covered last week. Number 12, when you hate your children, this is one, this is very important. The next two are very important. But when you hate your children, you subject them to the judgment of others. You know what I'm saying? Again, Eli was getting on them, talking about how bad the people were talking about them. But if you go read over in the King James Version, it says, if a man sin against another, the judge shall judge him. But if a man sin against the Lord, who shall entreat for him? And, you know, and that's what y'all remember when I went over this last week. How you doing, Miss Jean? I'm glad you're here. Y'all remember when I went over this last week, I was talking about, you know, I kind of shared with y'all, I saw a friend of mine made a post and he was talking about don't cry mama. And he was saying like all these women, you know, they let their kids do whatever, never really kind of step in and discipline them. And then they get to crying once they end up in jail or, you know what I'm saying, in the cemetery somewhere. And the guy, he was just basically saying, he was not that he wasn't being sympathetic, because I understand being a single mom and things like that, trying to raise a man, kind of thing. But he was saying, you know, there was times where people tried to step in and help you with their kid. There was times when the teacher may have said something to you, or the school may have said something to you, and instead of listening to them, you went off on the teacher or the principals or whatever. Yeah, so this is you know, trying to defend the kid instead of, you know, disciplining the kid. This is the results of it. So don't cry now, kind of thing. So you gotta understand, whenever when you hate your children, you subject them to the judgment of others, because you're not teaching them the right ways. You're not teaching them the consequences of their action, and therefore they're going to end. A lot of times they end up, when you see these people end up in jail, prison, things like that, in and out of court, and 9 times 10 is just because they never had parents that loved them enough to correct them. Now that ain't always the case. It ain't always the case. Sometimes kids just hard headed. You know, I've had you know, I love my kids, definitely discipline them, try to raise them the right way, and they end up, my oldest son end up in trouble with the law. So sometimes just kids just hard headed, but a majority of the time is because they just never was loved. So number 12 from last week was, when you hate your children, you subject them to the judgment of others. And then the last point that we went over last week was number 13 was, and this is very important, this is actually going to come back up again tonight, and we're going to see why I came from this. You know, I gave this point last week, but you're going to see where I came, where this point came from as we finish up the story tonight. In verse 13, number 13 from last week was, when you hate your children, your inaction keep them on the path to their destruction. So in other words, when you hate your kids, when you're not disciplining on, how you doing? No problem. I'm just going through a review. I'm just going through a review. I ain't know you're going to be here or not, because I know it's Labor Day. Everybody got that good barbecue going. So I appreciate you being here. A lot of people don't use tune in on the holidays, but I'm still here for anybody that wants to be here. So I definitely appreciate you being here. Definitely encouragement. So again, number 13 from last week, when you hate your children, your inaction will keep them on their path to destruction. In other words, when you're not correcting them, if you're not stepping in, making sure they keep their relationship up with the Lord, when you're not stepping in and correcting them when they're going wrong, you're actually letting them stay on that path to destruction. And those are things that you do when you hate your children. So again, that was just a quick review of what we went over last week. And like I said in the introduction, I got 5 points for tonight. So I'm gonna try to finish this up tonight, because I did a sermon this past week. Y'all know it was my birthday. So usually the week of my birthday and the week of what I call my spiritual birthday, I try to do a sermon. And I did a sermon this past week, and I want to share that with y'all over the next couple of weeks. And it's called Hate. Excuse me. So went down the wrong pipe. Spit tried to get me. Went down the wrong pipe. So again, I did a sermon this past weekend, last Sunday, and it was called Hating the Truth because you love the lie. So that's the game plan, to finish up with this today and start sharing this sermon with y'all maybe next week. But we're gonna see how it goes. Like again, I'm not gonna rush through it, but we should be able to get through it tonight, because it's only 5 points, and it's kind of finish it up. It's just exciting conclusion to this lesson that we've been covering for the last 4 weeks. So again, that was the review. Game plan is to finish this story up tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and pray so we can jump into it. Dear Lord and Heavenly Father, thank you so much for watching over us today. Thank you for this day off, man. A lot of people had a day off. Some people didn't, but a lot of people did. Thank you for this day off. Give me a time to get a little sleep in. I had the grandkids this weekend, so I couldn't sleep as much as I normally would. But I was able to get a little extra sleep in today because we didn't have to work. So I'm grateful for that. Just thank you for just letting us get together today. I know this being a holiday, wasn't expecting a lot of people to be in here, Lord, but you let a few be here, and I appreciate this. Definitely an encouragement. So I just thank you for giving me this opportunity to share your word right now. As we went through this lesson, like I said, this is a wonderful lesson, Lord. I really have enjoyed. I didn't expect it to be as long as it is, but I really have enjoyed going over this lesson with the people. Things that I wish, honestly, I would have saw beforehand when I was bringing my kids up. I mean, most of them are older now, and I still have time to correct some of the stuff. But for the most part, they're all grown men now. My 3 boys are grown men now. But at the same time, Lord, I pray that this lesson will help others that maybe still have the young kids and still have the ability to have influence in their kids' life. They help them guide their kids along the path that they need to go down, so they may have a good, prosperous life that may be used to honor, glorify you. And not only just our kids, Lord. If you know, there's some people might be watching the video that's working with kids. Or just kids in their neighborhood that they can maybe be an influence on and help them see that, you know, like I said last week, most of these kids out here that are doing the things they're doing, they're not lost, they're just not loved. And maybe this lesson will touch their heart, give them the want to show their kid that love, to bring them back into the fold, so to speak. So we just ask you, Spirit, as always, let your Spirit work on our hearts tonight. Let your Spirit work on me, Lord. Give me the wisdom I need to share this wisdom that you've given us, Lord. Giving me to share with the people. I pray you just let your Spirit guide this session. Let your Spirit work on the hearts and the minds of those that's going to be listening, Lord. Let their hearts and minds be prepared to receive this wisdom, and not only receive it, not only be hearers of it, but doers of it. You know, if they come under conviction about some things that they're not doing, they could be doing, I just pray you just give them the courage and the strength and the character to make those corrections so they can help these kids know. Let these kids know that they are loved. So we just thank you so much once again for this lesson. Thank you so much for this nice, relaxing day. And I ask you just be with us as we get into this, Lord, and pray that, as always, that you will show up and do a mighty work with the time that's spent here going through your word tonight. We love you and thank you for everything. And say this prayer in your wonderful Son, Jesus' name. Amen. Get a little bit more water. Man, this spit tried to get me, boy. I swear. Went down the wrong pipe. So again, last week we ended up went back to, we start off when you hate your children, and then I had one that on when you love your children, and then it went back to when you hate your children, and tonight is actually going to be a little bit of both. I got 2 points, 2 things that you'll do that if you love your kids, and then I got 3 things, I believe, 3 that you do when you hate your children. No, it's actually 6 points. So it's 2 when you love your children, and 4 when you hate your children. But again, I'm not going to try to belabor. Some of them kind of reflect points that we've already covered, so I won't dive deep into those unless the Spirit lead me to do so. But I do want to share these points with y'all tonight. So we're going to start off. We got your Bibles open. Of course, we're in 1 Samuel chapter 2, and we'll go. My Bible, with me reading out the New Living Translation, kind of breaks it up in like little sections or whatnot. But we're going to start off in verse 26. And the game plan, like I said, to make it through, I think it's 36 verses. So make it all the way through. Because one of them is a large chunk of just reading. So we should be able to get through it. But again, I'm not going to rush it. You guys need to go get your barbecue. But I'm going to stay here and get this lesson done to make sure I do what the Lord has for me. So if you got your Bibles open, 1 Samuel chapter 2. And again, I'm reading out the New Living Translation. Anybody ain't never saw one of my lessons before or heard me preach before know that I do believe in King James Version. I just read out the New Living Translation because it is the lost sheep ministry. So there's a lot of people that don't have that close relationship with the Lord just yet. So they don't understand the King James. So I just try to read out the New Living Translation to make it easier to understand. But I am a King James believer. When I read for myself, I read out the King James, not the New King James, the King James. And when I preach at the church, I preach at the King James. But for this ministry, I preach out the New Living Translation, not to be a heretic, but to make sure my people understand what is being said. So with that being said, we're going to go and jump into it because I already lost 20 minutes. I really want to finish this up tonight. So again, we're going to start off in 1 Samuel chapter 2. And the first point is going to actually be about love. So, the last, when I finished up, it was about, hey, the first point is going to actually be about love. And this is something important. This is something we got to understand. So it's a really important point, actually. So verse 26 says this. The Lord tells us this. Says, so meanwhile, so again, it finished up, the Lord was getting on, saying how Eli was actually getting on his sons, and he kind of ended off, it says, but Eli got on his sons. He told them that the people are talking about you, the things y'all doing are not good, you need to change your ways. And then it says, but Eli's sons wouldn't listen to their father, for the Lord was already planning to put them to death. And that's why I said, when you hate your children, your inaction will keep them on their path to destruction. So then right after that, it says, now meanwhile, now so while all this going on, it said, meanwhile, going back to Samuel, the kid that was loved, and we saw how he was loved because of what his parents had did for him. So it said, meanwhile, as young Samuel grew taller, he also continued to gain favor with the Lord and with the people. So you notice with the Eli's sons, the people hated them, the Lord hated them, essentially, and the people hated them because they were hated by their father. But we see here with Samuel, we saw that Samuel was loved by his parents, so therefore he was loved by people and God. So number 14 is this, and this is something important. This is something, and we don't really think about it, but when it happens, but it's so true, and I can see that in my kids' lives. But number 14 is this: when you love your children, God will love your children. You understand that? When you love your children, God will love your children. Why? Why is it that when you love your children, God will love your children? Because if you love your children, what have we been talking about? The things that we do when we don't love our children. But we also talked about the things that we did if we do if we love our children. And one of the things that we did, I talked about doing when we love our children is making sure they have a close relationship with the Lord, making sure God is their foundation. So see, when we love our children, God will love our children because we've raised them up the right way. We've done that. What does it say? Train a child up in the way, in the direction he should go, and when he's older, he won't depart from it. See, when we do that, then God will love our children too because we raised them the right way. That don't necessarily mean they're gonna always go the right way. You know what I'm saying? But the God will still love your children, and it will be apparent in the things that happens to them in the way their life goes. Like for instance with me, I know God loves my children, and it's not because they're the best children in the world and no stuff like that. I'm not saying that, but I can tell that my children are loved by God. How can I tell? Because they've done some knucklehead stuff. I've told y'all I don't sit here and try to act like I'm all our family is perfect and everything. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I struggle with my older son, my two boys, struggled with them for a little while. They've come back to the fold, so to speak. But you know, I struggled with them when they became men. Because they basically, I had taught them the way they should go their whole life, but you know, it's a human nature, a man thing, where at some point a man want to find his own way, kind of thing, and that's kind of really what it was. They were just like, man, look, I know you said do it this way, but we're gonna find our own way, and then they went their own way and found out they should have been doing it the way that I told them to do it in the first place, you know. But everybody got to find their own way, kind of thing. But while they was doing that, they got into some stuff that they shouldn't have been getting into. And they went down some paths that they shouldn't went down. And really, there was several times they was in situations where it could have been really bad. You know what I'm saying? They could have ended up dead or in jail in some of the situation they was in. But guess what? They made it through. Why? Because God loved them. Because he knew that they still had the potential. He knew that they're true. It's the same with me. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know, as a matter of fact, I'll be sharing my, got a blessing. We have this thing in my job. It's called Faith Connect, Faith-Filled Fridays. And we have, one Friday out of the month, we have a day where, people from the company that, you know, Christian people from the company get together and, you know, people share their testimonies and stuff like that. And they actually asked me to share my testimony this Friday. So I'm kind of excited about that, you know, but of course, y'all know from my testimony, I went the wrong way. You know what I'm saying? I went the wrong way. I did things that I shouldn't have been doing. Like, 18 and a half years ago, I was a drug dealer. I wasn't no preacher. I was a drug dealer. And you know what I'm saying? And I really didn't have, you know what I'm saying, live my life, stayed away from drugs the whole time I was in Memphis, and then got to college and ended up selling drugs. Why? Because I was trying to do things my own way. You see what I'm saying? So, but I was protected. I'm here talking to y'all today because God loved me, because he know that my grandmother raised me the right way. And he knew when the situation arose, when the right moment came along, that I was going to come back to him. You know what I'm saying? So he loved me because I was raised up in the foundation. And that's why it says, train a child up in the way he should go. And when he's older, he knew once I matured, he knew once I got my young ignorant stuff out, he knew that I was going to come back to me. And that's why he protected me the whole time. Because I never, even though I wasn't doing the things I should have been doing, I never, like, you know, turn my back on him, kind of thing. I did at one point. I was kind of like Job, like, no, why even be born? Because my life was so horrible and I had went through so much. I felt like I was cursed. But I never just like curse God and turn my back completely on God. I just, you know, decided to do it wasn't even that I was turning my back away from God. I was just turning my face toward myself. I was focused on more on what I wanted to do and the things that pleased me than pleasing God, you know, kind of thing. But God knew that. and he kept me safe. And remember, I don't know if y'all remember my testimony, but the night when he had called me to preach, he told me, all right, you know, so I let you have your fun. Now you got to make a decision. Either you're going to get back to doing what you're supposed to be doing, or you're going to keep doing what you want to do, you're going to end up dead. You know, and I made that decision. But why did he do that? Because he loved me. You see what I'm saying? And he loved me because my grandmother loved me enough to put a foundation of his word in my heart in the beginning. So see, when you love your children, you put that foundation down, and God knows, yes, that child is doing stuff he's not supposed to be doing, but he still has potential. We see that if you look at Samson. Same thing happened with Samson, because y'all remember Samson was dedicated as a Nazarite. His daddy served in the temple. He was dedicated as a Nazarite. His mama had faith. That's why the angel kept appearing to the mama instead of dad, because the mama had faith. He had some faithful parents. You know what I'm saying? They dedicated him as a Nazarite, just like the Lord said that they would do. You know what I'm saying? But he grew up, and y'all look at the life of Samson. Samson was hard-headed. He broke every single rule that the Lord said that he wasn't supposed to break. Everything that he was supposed to stay away from as a Nazarite, he did. You know what I'm saying? Basically every rule, and only thing that he did, and, I always ask people when I do that story, it's been a long time since I did the story of Samson, but I have done, if y'all want to look on my YouTube page, I have done the story of Samson. It's called The Life of Samson. You know what I'm saying? The results of sin. You know, but if you look at it, Samson did all kind of bad stuff. He murdered people. He robbed people. You know what I'm saying? He was hooking over prostitutes, and he was doing all kind of stuff. But yet, when he was in a bad situation, what happened? It said the Spirit came upon him. So every time he was in a bad situation, what happened? The Lord came upon him. The Lord was with him. Why was that? Because, see, remember, he did everything he wasn't supposed to do, but he never did cut his hair. And see, I believe the reason why the Lord finally left him after he cut his hair, because to me, that hair, it was a symbol of potential. You know what I'm saying? Yes, he's drinking and he ain't supposed to be drinking, and he's carousing women. He ain't supposed to be carousing women, and he's doing this and he's doing that, but he haven't cut his hair yet. Excuse me, I'm sorry. But he hasn't cut his hair yet, so guess what? He still had potential. So see, when you love your children enough to build that foundation of faith in their hearts in the beginning, then guess what? They always have the potential to do something with God. They always have the potential to get to that moment where they realize, hey, I'm going the wrong way. I need to turn my heart back to God and look at the work they can do. Because like I said, that's what God did for me. And I know it's only because my grandma loved me enough to lay that foundation down. Because God did it for me. And again, yes, I was going all the way the wrong way. But look what happened when I turned back. I turned back, and for this 18 and a half years, I've been dedicated to him, and I've almost led over 500 people to him, not to mention the people that I taught about him, the people that I helped build their relationship with him. See, God knew I still had that potential in me, and that's why he kept me protected. And like I said, he does the same for my kids. Not that they're perfect, but because, I mean, it's to a point, like, especially with my older son, sometimes, and this might sound bad, but I'm like, Lord, just let something happen to him. Because something happened to him, and I'd be like, oh man, all right, this is going to get him. This is to open his eyes up and make him realize that he needs to change his wicked ways, kind of thing. And then God would come in and work his little magic, and he'd be right back out of the situation. Like, dang, God, let us sit in jail for a little while. Let him, you know what I'm saying, let him suffer for a little bit. Because if not, he's just going to keep on doing the same thing because you keep letting him get away with it. You know, but again, that's just God showing me that he loved my kids, you know, and that's what I always got. Ask God, like, look, Lord, you know what I'm saying? I put them in your hands. You know what I'm saying? Yes, you know what I'm saying? I know that something's going to have to happen for them to realize that they need to get back on the right path. And I always process, I just pray it ain't something they can't come back from. Because, you know what I'm saying, you end up murdering somebody or something like that. Like I said, my son, he's had a problem with drinking in the past, so he ended up doing a drunk driver and kill somebody. That's something hard to come back from. You know, and people still have redeemed themselves for that, but that's one hard to come back from, or they end up in prison or something like that. So I always ask God, I put them in God's hand and be like, look, I pray you keep your hand upon them, bring them back to the fold. I know you might have to put your hands on them, spank their butt for them to really get it, but I just pray it ain't something they can't come back from. But like I said, my kids have been in situations, not that my kids, like I said, I raised them right. They was in the church, you know, we had Bible studies, I did my part, but they were just hard-headed. You know what I'm saying? They had to go find their own way. But I know God loves them because, like I said, like matter of fact, it was several times, like I think I've told y'all before since we've been talking about this, when my son, they had moved out in May, and it was about November, they had said, Dad, we want to take you out for a steak dinner. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, all right, cool. You know what I'm saying? And finally, they get to take me out. And we went out, And, you know, and my son, we was talking, I'm pretty sure I told y'all this, but he told me that, Dad, he said, I find myself, I did all this to get out of the house, to kind of get away from you and get from under your rules. He said, but yet I find myself at least once a day thinking, what would Dad do in this situation? You know what I'm saying? And then some of the situations they told me about, some stuff I've heard about over the course of time, but, you know, it was several situations they was in that was bad situations. And my son, he told me, he said, Dad, I know the only reason why we made through that because God was with us. You know what I'm saying? I know the only reason why, you know, I didn't end up in a worse situation I was is because God was with us. I felt His presence. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, he told me, he said, man, keep praying for me. I feel it. You know, there's several situations we could have been in that could have been way worse, and it wasn't because God showed up. They said that, and like I said, they were still, you know, trying to sort their overall oats and figure it out their own way. But they said that. They realized that. They said, man, God is definitely with us. Keep praying for us. You know what I'm saying? God is with us. You know what I'm saying? One of my sons, he got robbed at gunpoint one time at a house by himself. And he's my middle son, but he's a high functioning autism. You know what I'm saying? So it could have went way worse. You know what I'm saying? He even tried to like fight the guy kind of thing. The guy had a gun on him. It could have went way worse. Like I said, several situations. And you know what I'm saying? When we were talking about it, like, man, it was only God, because God with us that it'd end up worse. He'd end up getting shot or killed or something like that. You see what I'm saying? Why? Because God loved my kids, because I love my kids. I love them enough to give them the wisdom when they was younger, so that God knew their potential was there. And like I said, they went for a year or so, and then now they're back in the fold. Both of them, they end up having to move back home. They did move back home, so they with me now. But they paying their bills. You know what I'm saying? They paying their share of rent. They just had to come back and restart. You know what I'm saying? I thank God that I'm in a position to give them that, because I didn't have that. You know, I told y'all when I left the house, it was either I had to make it or make it. You know, I didn't have the option of going back. You know what I'm saying? So they came back, and now they're going about it the right way. They doing things the right. They're both working. You know what I'm saying? Regular job. They at one point they tried to sell weed and drugs and all that. Now they working just regular job. You know, they realize there is no shortcut. Because I've always told them, like, son, there's no shortcut to success. I feel victims of that, thinking that I can sell drugs and get ahead quick. Like no, you always end up losing more than you win. You know what I'm saying? So they understand that now. And I just thank God that they came back so quick. Because a lot of people, kids, once they get on that path, man, they don't come back until it's too late, till they're in prison or they've killed somebody or they've been seriously injured themselves. You know what I'm saying? So I thank God it's a blessing that they came back. It only took them a year and a half to realize it, and they humbled themselves enough to where they came back. Especially for my younger son, because he's real, you know what I'm saying, industrious, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? He you know, he's very independent. So for him to have to come back and be like, man, Dad, I need to move back home, man, that really touched my heart. That showed that God had humbled him. You know what I'm saying? But he humbled them and brought them back because he loved them. And he loved them because I loved them first. I loved them enough to give them that wisdom to see that hey, I'm not making good decisions. I see these things are not going, my life is not going the direction that my dad had brought me up and to go. You know what I'm saying? I see I'm not doing the things that my dad had taught me that I should be doing, and I need to get back to it. See, had I never loved them enough to teach them those things, they never would have saw that, and they probably would have kept on in that destructive path till they ended up dead or in jail somewhere. You know what I'm saying? So again, I thank God that he did it, but why did he do it? Because I loved them first. So you got to understand, you got to love your kids enough to direct them down the right path. You got to love your kids enough to correct them when they need correction. You got to love your kids enough and when you see them struggle, spend that time with them. Like me, I don't try to barge into my kids' life, but when they say they need to talk, I'm there for them. You know what I'm saying? And if I see something obviously going wrong, like, hey, look here, I know you're going to do it. And I always tell my kids, you know, I'll let you make your decisions, but I'm going to let you know this is how I feel about this situation. You know what I'm saying? And I always, my kids, this is how I feel about this situation. This is what I think you should be doing. But of course, you can do what you want to do. But again, if you do what you want to do and it don't turn out good for you, don't come asking me for no help. You know what I'm saying? Don't come out asking me for no help, because it ain't going to happen. You know what I'm saying? I tell them, but I also let them make their own decision. But I at least try to give them the wisdom they need. So hopefully that wisdom will kick in. They can see, okay, yes, I need to make this decision, or I need to make that decision. You know what I'm saying? I do those things because I love them. And see, because I loved them, the Lord loved them as well. And that's why he protected them when they was in these bad situations. That's why he kept them safe when they could have been, in a situation. That's why he kept me safe. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I was out there selling drugs and stuff. There's a situation I was in that I could end up dead or in jail. You know what I'm saying? I'm driving around with no pounds of weed in my car. At any point, I could have got pulled over. There would have been a felony back, especially back then. Now maybe not as much because they started to legalize weed and stuff. But back when I was doing it, you know what I'm saying? You got called a couple of pounds of your trunk. You know what I'm saying? That was a felony. That's going to be distribution. You know what I'm saying? So it could have went bad for me at any point, even up to the night when I gave my life to the Lord. When the Lord told me, you keep on going where you the direction you're going, you're gonna be dead. Why did he give me that other chance? Because he loved me. Why did he love me? Not because I was so great, because I was selling drugs, but because my grandmother loved me enough to make me go to church every Sunday. She loved me enough to help me understand the importance of reading that Bible. She loved me enough to spend time with me, correct me, spank my butt when I was young. And then when she got too old to spank my butt, she had my uncles do it. You see what I'm saying? She loved me enough to put me on that right path. And because she loved me, God also loved me. And that's why I was protected. You see what I'm saying? So if you love your kids, you know what I'm saying? Yes, they're going to stray away. Kids, they got to find their own way. You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, that's just how human nature is. They got to find their own way. They got to bump their head. They got to touch the hot stove and burn their fingers before they get it. You know, that's all part of it. Not that you're a bad parent, you know what I'm saying? Just kids, they got to find their own way kind of thing. But if you truly did love them, they're going to be okay. You know what I'm saying? They're going to be okay. You know what I'm saying? That's what you got to understand. If you truly love them, and again, you truly love them because you was in their lives, you know what I'm saying? You guided them down the right path. You corrected them when they were supposed to. If you truly loved them when they was younger, they're going to be okay. God got them. You know what I'm saying? You just got to get to a point where you got to put them in God's hand. And that's what I've done with my boy. Like I said, all of them are grown now, so they're in God's hand. And I pray for him. Like I said, God love him a little too much. Because especially my oldest son, something happened. I'm like, oh, yeah, this is a good one now. No, he might have to go to jail for a little while. 2 days later, he's out. I'm like, God dang it. You know what I'm saying? But God knows best. I put him in God's hands kind of thing. But I know God loves my kids because I love my kids. And like I said, God has shown me he loved my kids because he's always protecting my kids. My kids always come back home safely. Knock on wood. None of them have ever been shot. Like, even though, like I said, they've been in a situation where they could have been in. My oldest one, he's been to jail. He's only been to jail one time, where he actually served some time in like 45 days. He was in jail. But he hasn't been back for serious time. And that's what I'm saying. He's on probations and he's been like arrested a couple of times. They take him, but they let him go to jail for a day or two and he's right back out. And I'm just knowing that his probation, I was going to violate him and they just let him go. I'm like, man, what is going on? But it's because of the love of God. You know what I'm saying? It's God's grace and come to protect him. And hopefully he'll see that for himself and he'll bring his butt back into the fold like the other two has. But until then, I just got to keep praying for him. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, God sees something in them that is keeping them safe and he's keeping them protected. You know what I'm saying? But it's only going to go so far because what happened with Samson? Again, we go back to Samson. What happened to Samson? God kept on saving him, kept protecting him. The spirit, he was laying over prostitutes and they tried to kill him. And the spirit came over him where he ripped the gates up and walked across the hill or some stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? God kept protecting him. But then what happened? He got to that point where God was like, all right, I'm done. When he cut that hair, and what does it say? If you read over there in the book of Samson, Judges with Samson, it says, when he cut that hair, he didn't realize his strength left him. But it said when he woke up and tried to break himself free, he didn't realize that God had left him. So see, God is not mocked. God gives him, he love him, so he keep giving him a chance. But once he see, all right, their potential to do something is gone. They're not going to turn their heart back to me. They're not going to do what they're supposed to do. All right, I'm just going to take my hand off of them, and then bam, that's when something happened. That's what happened with Samson. But even with Samson, you see, after he went to prison, got his eyes gouged out, he humbled himself and went back to God. And guess what? God brought him right back into the fold. You see what I'm saying? So if you really love your children, in other words, if you've done what you're supposed to do, you've laid that foundation of the word of God down in their heart, you've guided them down their path, you corrected them when they were supposed to be corrected, then guess what? If you love them enough to do all those things, then God gonna love them enough to take care of them when they out of your sight. And that's what you got to do. You got to make sure that you put your faith and trust in God and, put them in God's hand. And God will love them if you took the time to love them as well. So number 14, when you love your children, God will love your children. And we see this here with Samuel, because again, we saw with Samuel, what did his family do? They dedicated him to the Lord. You know what I'm saying? They went to church faithfully. They kept him always in the presence of the Lord. They did all these things that I've been talking about over the last few weeks. They've done those things, and they didn't do the stuff that I've been talking about that you shouldn't do to show your kids you hate them. They did all these things, and what did it say? It said, young Samuel grew taller, and he also continued to gain favor with the Lord and with the people. See, the people hated God, and the people, and we're going to see it as we get into it. We already saw the people hated Eli's kids, but we're going to see right here, matter of fact, in the next verse, we're going to see God hated Eli's kids as well. You know what I'm saying? Why? Because Eli hated his kids. So again, number 14, when you love your children, God will also love your children. You know what I'm saying? When you love your children, other people will also love your children. But when you hate your children, God will hate your children, and other people will hate your children as well. So then the next verse, verse 22, he said, now this is, like I said, a lot of reading. So one day he had sent a prophet to Eli. So in verse 27 through 29, it says, now one day a prophet came to Eli and gave him this message from the Lord. Didn't I reveal myself to your ancestors when the people of Israel were slaves in Egypt? I chose your ancestor Aaron from among all his relatives to be my priest, to offer sacrifices on my altar, to burn incense, and to wear the priestly garments as he served me. And I assigned the sacrificial offerings to you priests. So here you go. So why do you scorn my sacrifices and my offerings? And here it is right here. Why do you honor your sons more than me? For you and they have become fat from the best offerings of my people. Now, number 15 is this. Now, this is going to be a hard one, especially for you mamas. This is going to be a hard one for you mamas. I'm going to let you know right now, this is going to be a hard one. This is a hard one for me, especially the way I love my kids. But this is going to be a hard one. Y'all going to have to really listen to it. Y'all going to have to get this. So number 15 is this. When you hate, and it's going back to hate. When you hate your children, get this. Now, this is going to sound rough, but you got to understand that when you hate your children, you love them more than you love God. Ain't that crazy? Get that? What do I say? When you hate your children, you love them more than you love God. See what I'm saying? We think we're doing them a service by loving them so much. But what is Jesus, and you might think, well, God, because what is God saying? You honor your sons more than you honor me. You know what I'm saying? How is he honoring his sons more than he honors God? Because God has told them what they were supposed to do. God has gave them certain rules. He gave them some certain commandments on the things they should be doing, and he's giving them certain commandments on the things they shouldn't be doing. So when they start doing stuff that they weren't supposed to be doing, that God had commanded them, then guess what? He should have corrected them right then and there. But he didn't, because he loved them more. He wanted them to be, their friend. We get that a lot today. And not necessarily that Eli did that. He might have just been a lazy dad, but he did not correct them. You know what I'm saying? When you're not correcting your children, when you letting them slide with stuff, when you letting them get by with them spankings and they supposed to be spanked, you know what I'm saying? You're actually honoring them more than God. Because if God said don't do that, and they did that thing, and you knew they weren't supposed to be doing that thing, you should have corrected them right then and there. You know what I'm saying? But you don't correct because you want them to love you. You want them to be your friend. You see what I'm saying? And a lot of people like to say, oh, well, it's just God. He just old meanie. The God of Old Testament, he's just an old meanie. You know what I'm saying? That's why I like Jesus better. Because God, he was just an old meanie. But if you say that, then you don't know your scripture. Because what did Jesus say? What did Jesus himself say? If you go over to Matthew chapter 10, I'm not going to go, I wrote it down, so I won't have to go over there because I want to save some time. But what did Jesus say? Jesus said the exact same thing. In Matthew chapter 10, verse 37, what did Jesus say? He said, if you love your father or your mother more than you love me, then you're not worthy of being mine. And then here you go. He said, or if you love your son or your daughter more than you love me, then you're not worthy of being mine. God got to be number one. You know what I'm saying? God has to be number one. And that's what we don't understand. God got to be number one over everything and everybody. You see what I'm saying? Well, we supposed to love our kids. Yes, you do supposed to love your children, but not more than you love God. You see what I'm saying? You do supposed to love your children, but not more than you love God. But when you letting them keep you from doing the things that God has for you to do, when you let them out of church, because even though God commanded you, because he said, I gave you a family so you can raise up good godly children. That's why I made you a man and a woman. I'm misquoting it, but basically that's why I made you a mom and a dad so you can raise me up godly children. That was a command. So when you like, oh well, I just let them decide for themselves. You know what I'm saying? When you say stuff, when you say stuff like, oh well, I let them grow up and decide for themselves, I'm not gonna make them go to church because they don't like to. You honoring them more than you honoring God. You know what I'm saying? And if you love your kids more than you love God, then guess what? You're setting them up for destruction. You really hate your kids. Because God is a jealous, what do you say? God is a jealous God. No, he don't want nothing to come before him. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. All these rest of these things shall be added. So when you put your kids first, you're actually putting them in a bad situation. And we're going to see, and it's going to come up here. Y'all going to see exactly what I'm talking about in the next couple of paragraphs. We're going to see that they actually hate. So when we think we loving our kids so much that, oh, God, I mean, you hear it all the time, especially with the single moms. Oh, that's my king. That's my heart. That's my, you know what I'm saying? And like I said, that's a mother thing. Like dad, we don't do it too. I love my kids too. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, women, y'all really have that strong attachment to your kids. Y'all really, I remember this one time, my wife, of course, she was just talking out no side of her neck, but it's just a motherly thing. You know what I'm saying? It's almost a gift and a curse, you know, the deepness of the love that the mothers have for their kids. But she was like saying somehow, you know, if something happened to my kid, you know, I cut God himself to take care of them. You know what I'm saying? And of course, like I said, she was just talking and running them out. But I mean, that was, I was like, girl, you better watch your mouth. You know what I'm saying? God don't play like that. You know, and of course, like I said, it was just an expression. She wasn't serious about it. But still, you know what I'm saying? That's how deep the love is. You know what I'm saying? She's saying, if something happened to kids, if she got to go through God to get to them, she will. But see, saying something like that, or even thinking like that, that's putting the kids before God. You see what I'm saying? And what did he get on Eli about? He said, you honor your kids more, you love your kids more than you love me. Because I said, don't do this, don't do that, or you should do this and do that, and they're not doing those things, and you're not correcting them about it, because you want to make sure that they love you. You want to have you're more concerned with having a close relationship with them than you are with me. So therefore, you putting them first. You're honoring them before you honor me. That's a hard one there. Because we're supposed to love our kids, and that's true. You do supposed to love your kids, but what is the very first commandment? What is the very first commandment? Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and put nothing else before him. That's everything. That's money. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times we think about money and idols and you know what I'm saying, superstars and things like that. But he talk about everything. Nothing should come before God. And my kids know one thing. They know that I love them with all my heart. I've showed them that love. Like I said, I brought them up like I was supposed to. I've done the Bible, you know what I'm saying, like I was supposed to. I had them in church like they were supposed to. I've made the sacrifices that I was supposed to. So they know that I love them. But they also know that God comes first. God comes first in my life. And that's why a lot of times you see preachers' kids. I'm sorry, I'm going to get a little drink right quick. But it's weird. A lot of time we see the preacher's kids go the wrong ways and rebel kind of thing. A lot of times it's because they feel like, man, he loved God more than me. And that's actually what he's supposed to do. That's what you're supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? It's a little weird, but yeah, you're supposed to. God got to come first. You know what I'm saying? God got to come first. Yes, you got to love your kids, but you can't love your kids more than you love God. Because if you love your kids more than you love God, then guess what? Your kids have now become an idol. Because that's what you got to understand. Anything that you love more than God, anything that you put before God, no matter what it is, like I said, it could be family, your kids, money, you know what I'm saying, material things, whatever. Anything that you love more than God is an idol. So if you love your kids more than you love God, then that's an idol. And we know how God feels about idols. That's a big no-no in the book, in the God book. You see what I'm saying? So yes, you're supposed to love your kids. You should love your kids, and you know what I'm saying. And you're supposed to love, the way you love your kids about doing the things that we've said that you should do. You love your kids. Make sure they had a relationship with God, and make those sacrifices, things of that nature. But you cannot love your kids more than you love God. That's what you gotta understand. If you get to a point where you love your kids, where you have more respect for your kids, and you honor your kids more than you honor God, then guess what? You're walking on thin ice. And I know. Like I said, that's a hard one, especially for your mamas out there. I know that's a hard one. It's a hard one for me as much as I love my kids. I got my grandkids. I love them to death. You know what I'm saying? They have running around now. If y'all hear loud noises, they won't be surprised. They bust in here in a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I love them to death, but I don't love them more than I love God. And that was Eli's problem. He was loving his boys more than he loved God. Why? Because he was correcting them when they was. He knew that they were stealing God's portion. They was taking the God's portion before they was taking their portion out before they was giving God his portion. Therefore, they was taking God's portion. He knew they was doing that, and he didn't correct them. See, he was honoring them more. If he had real true reverence for God, he was really honoring them, want to honor God. He would have made sure they did everything the way they were supposed to be doing it, and he would make sure that God got his portion first. You know what I'm saying? He was correcting them, but he didn't correct them. So see, he didn't correct them, so it showed them that he had more reverence for his kids than he did for God, and God saw that, and that's why God is upset right now. And you know what I'm saying? So number 15, when you hate your children, you love them more than God. Loving, and it's crazy. How can, when I came to that point, I'm like, Holy Spirit, what are you doing? But how can love your children be a result in you hating them? Because again, when you love them more than you love God, God has to come first. God has to come first over everything. And like I said, y'all might think that's a big old meaning God, but Jesus said the same thing. He said, if you love your son or your daughter more than you love me, you're not worthy of being mine. God got to come first. Why? Because if that's the case, all it takes somebody taking, you know what I'm saying, doing something, or your daughter or your son, well, if you don't stop preaching, then I'm you know what I'm saying, I'm going to go off and do this. And next thing you know, you stop preaching because you value them more than you value God. You see what I'm saying? anything that you value more than God can take you out of the will of God. And that's why God has to be first. You know what I'm saying? Again, children included. And that's because we suppose that's our natural affection toward us. We love our children. That's why we do the things we do. We love our children. You're supposed to. But again, not more than you love God. That's what we got to understand. You can love your children, love them all day, but not more than you love God. And like I said, my kids know without a doubt that I love them, but they also know that God comes first in everything. You know what I'm saying? I love y'all to death. God come first. We saw that with Abraham. You know what I'm saying? That's what he did. He's, you know what I'm saying? Abraham loved, he said Abraham loved his son Isaac. Loved Isaac. You know what I'm saying? He loved him. But when God said, hey, take him up there and sacrifice him, what'd he do? He tied him up. You're like, well, I love you, son. You know I love you. But God said, I got to sacrifice you. God come first. And when he went down, that he was getting ready to do it. You know what I'm saying? No hesitation. And God was saying, Abraham, whoa. All right, I see you love me more. You know what I'm saying? And what did it say? Because of that, it said his faith. Because of his faith in God, it counted him for righteousness. I'm misquoting that, but he was saw righteous in God's eyes because God knew how much he loved his son, but he also knew how much more Abraham loved God than his son. See what I'm saying? He put him to the test. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we get put to the test and we don't even realize it. You know what I'm saying? Are you gonna do with your child? You know what I'm saying? Your child get up that morning, I don't want to go to church, and throwing a fit. Are you gonna miss church because you want to keep them appeased, or you gonna make them to get their butt up and y'all gonna go to church? You know, which one are you gonna do? So we get tested, we don't even realize it. You know, so I used to fight, I hate going to church. It's too early. Then our church was always in Mississippi, so we had to get up an extra hour so we can make that drive. Hated going to church, but that didn't faze my grandmother. You got 5 seconds to wipe them tears out your face and get your butt dressed, or we're gonna have some problems. And I knew grandma didn't play, and I got up and I got my butt dressed. Why? Because God came first in that house. You see what I'm saying? God came first. She wouldn't listen to us. She would listen to her relationship with the Lord led us in the right direction. And I thank her for that today. Like I said, so much stuff I used to whine and complain about that now I'm so grateful for that she did, because she truly did love me. You see what I'm saying? So again, she loved me. I know my grandma loved me. I know because of her actions, I know she loved me, but she didn't love me more than she loved God. She loved God more. And because of that, that's where I'm at. That's why I am in the position I am in today. That's why I'm able to do the things I am able to do today, because of her love for God and for me. You know what I'm saying? So again, yes, this sound kind of harsh. You know what I'm saying? You can love your kid, but don't love them too much. I mean, like, how can you not do that? But like I said, love your kids. Love them with all your heart. Love them more than anything in this world. Just don't love them more than God. Because when you love them more than God, then you actually hate your kids, because you made them an idol, and God does not like idols. You know what I'm saying? That's why I say the first commandment is what? Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and don't put nothing else before him. That's the very first commandment. And then, like I said, a lot of times we like to equate that with material things and you know what I'm saying, material things and social media and stuff like that. No, he says nothing. I don't want no money, food, water, whatever. I come first. You got to have love for me first, and then you can have all this other stuff. You see what I'm saying? So number 15, when you hate your children, you love them more than God. Loving your children so much to where they come first in your life before God does actually shows them that you hate them. And like I said, when I put that, I'm like, oh, that's a rough one right there. But it is the truth, and we see it right there. We see it right there in the verse, because again, he got on Eli. He said, you honor your sons more than me. And then Jesus himself said, if you love your son or daughter more than you love me, then you're not worthy of being mine. So number 15, when you hate your children, you will love them more than God. So then let's go down to the next verse, verse 30. So he said, therefore, now again, because you love your children more, and watch what's going to happen. Because you love your children, because you honor your children more than you honor me. In verse 30 said, therefore, the Lord, the God of Israel says, the terrible things you are doing cannot continue. So we see here, I didn't make that a point, but we see God, he loved Eli. He loved his kids. You know what I'm saying? He loved his priests. And that's why he's going to correct them. He said, you got to, this stuff you're doing, I'm going to correct this right now. See, that shows love right there. He like some discipline about to come down, but he going to hit him hard too, though. He said, look this. He said, I had promised that your branch of the tribe of Levi would always be my priest. And y'all know, though, you have to go back all the way to the Old Testament when it happened. You know, they did some things, and, you know, the Lord like, all right, y'all are my chosen people. You're going to be my preachers forever. So they actually had favor. You know what I'm saying? But because this Eli had went wrong, God took that favor away. They had to be corrected because if he didn't correct them, he wouldn't have been really truly loving them. So he said, terrible things you're doing cannot continue. I had promised that your branch of the tribe of Levi would always be my priest, but I will honor only those who honor me, and I will despise those who despise me. So what is God saying? You actually hate me. So number 16, you got to understand this. When you hate your children, God may end up hating you. Ain't that something? When you hate your children, God may end up hating you. See what I'm saying? Because he said, I will always, you know, I promise you that y'all had my favor. He said, but I'm only going to honor those. Now, when you had my favor, I will honor you. But now you don't honor me no more. You actually despise me. So therefore, I'm going to despise you. So see, you got to understand, you know what I'm saying? Yes, every man got to pay for their own sin, you know, kind of thing. But you got to understand, when you let them children run wild and doing whatever it is that they want to do, you know what I'm saying, honoring them over God, then that puts some bad taste in God's mouth. Because again, children are a blessing. You know what I'm saying? He said he are a blessing. Children are a blessing. Over there in a song, I can't remember what song it is. I should have looked it up and wrote it down before I started. But it talks about how children having a quiver full of children, that's a blessing. You know what I'm saying? Children are a blessing. So if you're not taking care of this blessing, you're not showing God you appreciate these blessings by really loving these blessings and keeping these kids on the right path and raising them up the way they're supposed to be raised up, then guess what? You showing God that you hate these blessings that he's giving you. You know what I'm saying? So how would you feel if you gave somebody something? You gave somebody a brand new car, and you come back a week later and it's all beat up and the windows all busted out and you know they done ran the tires to the ground. You're gonna be like, man, this person didn't appreciate nothing I did for them. They didn't appreciate. I just gave them this wonderful gift, something so they can get around and have make their life a little easier and have these blessings in their life, and they just went and completely destroyed it. You know what I'm saying? And you're going to be upset next time they come for something, you ain't going to give it to them. You see what I'm saying? And this is what God's saying here. You despise, by putting your kids first before me, you actually show me that you despise me. Because you hate your children, now I hate you. Because now I got to deal with the repercussions and the outfall of what your children are doing because you never took the time to correct them. You see what I'm saying? When you look at all the evil that goes on in the world, again, these robberies we were talking about a few weeks when we first started this lesson, children down there pulling people out their cars, shooting them down in Memphis. You know what I'm saying? I know it ain't just in Memphis. I just know about Memphis because that's where I'm from, and I know I've been talking to my people, kind of thing. I think Nick, I think you mentioned on here as well. You know what I'm saying? Other people, that's God having to deal with the repercussion of your actions because you never corrected your children, because you never loved your children. Now they out here causing havoc. They out here causing chaos. You know what I'm saying? They out here hurting people and pulling people off the path that God had for them to go because you never had the courage to do what you're supposed to do as a parent. You know what I'm saying? So God takes that frustration out on you. You see what I'm saying? God takes you hate your children, so he gonna hate you. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Now, of course, we know God loves us unconditionally, but y'all know what I'm saying for this point. You know what I'm saying? Despise, he said, you despise me, so I'm going to despise you. So in other words, that Levites started off having favor because they was doing what they were supposed to be doing. But guess what? They just took that favor away. You see what I'm saying? They took their favor away. Why? Because they kids. You know what I'm saying? That you see, Eli never really said that he did anything. You know, he never did nothing bad. As far as we know, he was a good priest. But he didn't do nothing. He didn't correct his children like he was supposed to. See, he wasn't a bad guy. His children was bad, but he was bad. It made him bad because he was supposed to correct. It was his responsibility to correct them because he didn't do his responsibility as a children, as a father, and correct his children. Now he lost that favor that he had on his life. He had a promise that he would forever be they would be his what did it say? He said, I had chose your ancestor Abraham from among all the relatives to be my priest, to offer sacrifices on my altar, and to burn incense, and to wear the priest. And that was for forever. You know what I'm saying? That was a favor that they had forever. That was a big deal. Matter of fact, it was so big that when the land got split up, when Israelites went in and they finally conquered the land, and land got split up, the Levites didn't even get no land because he said, man, y'all just being my priest, that position you have, that's enough. You're going to be taken care of for forever. You see what I'm saying? Because guess what? When the land started failing, when the crops don't come in and things of that nature, the priests was still taken care of. They was always taken care of because people had always had to bring in, their percentage to God, and the priest got some of their percentage. You see what I'm saying? So basically, he gave them a life of love. You just serve me, do what you're supposed to do, and you're going to be taken care of for the rest of your life. You know what I'm saying? But they lost that favor. He lost that favor. Why? Not because he was a bad guy, but because his kids was, and he didn't correct them. So he didn't love his kids. You know what I'm saying? He hated his kids. So guess what happened? God ended up hating him. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to see God, because watch the next verse. Watch them show you how mad God is going to be. You know, why I use the word hate. Because he says, you know what I'm saying? He said, but I will honor only those who honor me, and I will despise those who despise me. And look what he said. He said, I will put an end to your family, so it will no longer serve as my priest. All the members of your family would die before their time. None would live to a ripe old age. That's rough. You know what I'm saying? He said, none of them, everybody, he said, matter of fact, in verse 32, he said, you will watch with envy as I pour out prosperity on the people of Israel, but no members of your family will ever live out their days. Those who are left alive will live in sadness and grief, and their children will die a violent death. God, that's some, I don't know about y'all, but that sounds pretty harsh right there. That's pretty harsh. Why? Because God started despising them because they were despising God by not loving their children. You see what I'm saying? So that hatred that he was displaying for his children ended up being reciprocated on him as a hatred that came from God. God just said, I'm taking you from now on, everybody in your family. You know what I'm saying? Everybody in your family. He said, again, listen to what he said. He said, all the members of your family would die before their time. You know what I'm saying? That I remember my grandma used to say, a disobedient child will not live out half his days. You know what I'm saying? In this case, he said, none of your family going to live out half their days because your children were disobedient. He said, you will watch with envy as I pour out prosperity on the people of Israel, but no members of your family will ever live out their days. He said, those who are left alive will live in sadness and grief, and their children will die a violent death. That's rough. That's rough. All because, again, he wasn't a bad guy, but he wasn't doing what he's supposed to as well. He wasn't loving his children the way he was supposed to love his children. And because he didn't love his children the way he was supposed to love his children, he lost the love that God had for him. But also, this is going to take us to point number 17 as well. This is something we hear a lot. We hear a lot about, and we don't realize where it comes from. And it all stems from, again, I didn't even get this. I didn't even put this together until I started doing this lesson. This is a good one. The Spirit gave me this one. Number 17 is this. When you hate your children, you curse when you hate your children, you curse future generations to suffer from that hatred. So what did he say? He said, when you hate your children, you curse future generations to suffer from that same hatred. What am I talking about here? Generational curses. All of y'all have heard that generation, especially in the black community. We talk about that generations curses. Where did they come from? It started because you had somebody at some point down the road that didn't love their children enough to correct them. And the cycle continues. That's that vicious cycle. Y'all remember a little while ago I did a lesson on that vicious cycle. That's where the generational curses come from. Because watch what happened. What did he say? Again, I'm going to read it again. He said, I will put an end to your family so it will no longer serve my priests. All of the members of your family would die before their time. None will live to ripe old age. So again, that's talking about future generations. It ain't talking about just right now, the ones that are alive now. It's talking about future generations. He said, you will watch with envy as I pour out prosperity on the people of Israel, but no members of your family will ever live out their days. Those who are left alive will live in sadness and grief, and their children will die a violent death. What's going on in our black neighborhoods right now? What's been going on in our black neighborhoods for quite some time? And my Caucasian brothers and sisters, I don't mean to cut y'all out, but this is just something that I've experienced for a long time. And I always wonder, why? You know what I'm saying? And we always hear that generation of curses, generation. Where does it come from? It stemmed from something. It started because one person didn't discipline child enough. Maybe it was a single mom. She was in a situation and she couldn't take her son like you're supposed to. And so he started down that path. And now his son started down that path. And now his son started down that path. You see what I'm saying? And that's why we hear this generational curse thing. And that's where it stemmed from. It stemmed from at some point during your bloodline. You know what I'm saying? If you one of those in this situation, like I know definitely for me, at some point during my bloodline, I don't know how far back it goes. It goes back quite far because I don't know anybody in my family that I know of that's been successful. You know what I'm saying? They've always been in the same situation where they're either poor or they didn't make it. They didn't live very long. You know, I have several cousins that's in the ground right now. You know what I'm saying? I have several that's locked up right now. You know what I'm saying? I have several that's living in poverty right now. You know what I'm saying? Why? It goes back to some point down the bloodline where we had somebody that didn't love, you know what I'm saying, my great grandfather, I guess, and it just trickled down the line. It just kept on going. You know what I'm saying? And that's why, you know what I'm saying, you hear them saying, well, you need to be the one to break that generation of curse. I'm praying that I am the one that has broken that curse, because it's definitely switch with me, because I don't have my life is not going in the direction that, you know what I'm saying, 90% of my family is going in. You know what I'm saying? So I finally was able to get out of there, and I'm trying to, you know, raise my kids the right way. And it seems like I said, the boys are doing good, better now. So hopefully we've broken that, and my family can get back to going their situation. And they probably will get back to going their right way until, guess what? Maybe my great-great-great-grandson grow up, and he don't discipline his kids like he's supposed to, especially with the way things are going today. They telling us we can't discipline our kids. You know what I'm saying? So then what has happened? Gonna fall back into that cycle. And it's going to keep on going. And that's what happened. That's where the generation of curses come from. You know what I'm saying? It's come from not loving our kids like we were supposed to. Not raising them the way we're supposed to. You see what I'm saying? And we don't even realize we're doing that, and we do it. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's going to pay for that. You got this son, like, you know what I'm saying? Like I was getting on my older son, because he's actually, he's not biologically mine, but I raised him since he was 3. He's 25. So I don't look at him like he's some other man. So I raised him as if he was my son. You know what I'm saying? And I got my grandkids over here now, and he does not spend the time with them that I think he should be spending with them. He don't put the efforts of raising them like I should. And he said something to me last week about, because him and his baby mama they're into it. And a lot of time when they get in this situation, people the kids kind of get caught in the middle of it. And he made some statement the other week that made me so mad. So I'm falling out of love. Something to the fact that I don't love my kids like I used to, or something like that. And man, I'm telling y'all something. I jumped all over him about that. Man, I called it. I actually lost my religion a little bit when he told me that. I said, boy, don't you ever say nothing like that. Like, those are your kids. Like, you determining how their life is going to go. I said, look what your dad did to you. You know what I'm saying? Because he's old enough to understand. I said, look what your dad did to you and the issues that you still have to this day because he wasn't around. Why would you want to subject your kids to this? Especially when you didn't have to go through. Because I stepped in and I became that man in your life that tried to raise you the right direction. So why would you subject your kids to that? Because if we do, then guess what's going to happen? They're going to fall back in that same system. They're going to fall back into that same generation curse, that same, what's the word I'm looking for? I had lost the word. That same, cycle. That's what I had a brain fart. They're going to fall back in that cycle. Why would you want to subject them to that cycle? You know what I'm saying? When you was able to get out of the cycle because somebody stepped in, you know what I'm saying? Now you want to possibly subject them to the same cycle because you and your baby mom can't get along. You know what I'm saying? I said, man, don't ever say that. I said, you ever say something like that, I don't even want you to come back to my house, because I don't know what I might do to you. I might have to put my hands on you for saying something that's stupid. You know what I'm saying? I was upset. Now, don't ever say nothing like that. And it was just a couple of weeks ago. Don't ever say nothing like that because you and your baby mama ain't getting along. That has nothing to do with your kid. You know what I'm saying? And see, that we don't realize, that's what happens a lot of times with the kids. That's why they end up in this situation. That's why they end up not feeling love, because maybe the mom and dad weren't getting along. So the dad, instead of just, all right, well, I ain't got nothing to do with you, I'm still going to take care of my kids, he just takes it out on the mom and the kids. And the kids suffer, and the cycle continues. You see what I'm saying? That's where these generational curses come from. You know what I'm saying? When you see all these black men that's in and out of prison, 9 times out of 10, they got dads that was in and out of prison. Or they got dads that was absentee. You see what I'm saying? Like, my dad's been in and out of jail. But again, thank God, because of God's grace on me, because my grandmother loved me, it helped me break that generational curse. See what I'm saying? And Eli, because he didn't love his kids, now all his people going, and he's going to end up in it. Matter of fact, if you go down, you get deep into when you get into like Chronicles, the books of Kings, and it's going to come up. I don't know how long y'all going to hang out with me, but if you continue, we're going to know I'm going through the books. I'm about to start going through Chronicles and all that. But if you're with me, there's going to be a point where there's going to be a story where some priests are going to be killed. You know what I'm saying? All these priests are going to be killed, and it's going to actually come back to this point. It's going to be like, just like the Lord said, this the priest that is going to be a matter of fact. The situation is, and I think I got this right. I read some of my stories go together, but there was a situation where David was being chased by Saul, and he ended up going to the priest, and he asked the priest like for some food and a weapon. And you know what I'm saying? So the priest ended up getting him. That was when David ate the bread, because it was the bread that's been offered to the Lord, and only the priest is supposed to eat that. So that was one of the other sins that David had committed, because the priest gave it to David, he ended up eating it. And then he also gave David Goliath's sword. And then one of Saul's men saw that David was talking to the priest. So then Saul called the priest and was like, man, look, I saw you giving bread and stuff to David. He's like, yeah, I give David stuff all the time. Like he's like the general of your army or whatever. Because the priest had no clue that David and Saul was beefing. Well, Saul was beefing with David. David was really beefing with him. And you know what I'm saying? He's like, yeah, I ain't think no big deal. He's like one of the highest people in your army. What's the big deal with it? And Saul like, well, you're consorting my enemy, so you're going to die. And Saul ended up killing him, but he commanded his men to kill that priest and all the priests at that time. And at the end of that story, it said after he killed all those priests, it said, and that was the Lord, that was the last of Eli's bloodline. Some to the fact that basically that was the last of Eli's bloodline, and that was the Lord's promise coming true to Eli that he would wipe out his bloodline. You see what I'm saying? It ended up happening. You know what I'm saying? So because Eli didn't love his children, all of the future generation that came along had to suffer because of his love, his hatred for his children. They had to suffer from the same hate. And again, you looking at black men, what did it say? It said they won't live out half their days. Look how many black young kids are killed every single day. You see what I'm saying? How many our young black men are killed every single day. What did it say? Those are left alive, they will live in sadness and grief. Look at the mental state of our black people. You know what I'm saying? The people in black neighborhoods and poor run down neighborhoods. You know what I'm saying? They usually in sadness and grief, need some kind of counseling or something. Then it says that, and their children will die violent deaths. Again, look at all these kids dying in the streets. Look how many people are shot. You know what I'm saying? That's why I don't even watch the news. And not just in Memphis. I'm using Memphis because that's where I'm from. And I can speak personally on this because I've seen this curse right here that the Lord put on Eli's family. I've seen it happen to several families around me. I've seen that generational curse happen on several families around me. You know what I'm saying? And it all stemmed from somebody at some point in their bloodline not loving their children, so it can continue going. Most of the guys I know that are drug dealers, their dads were drug dealers. You know what I'm saying? Most of the guys I know that was in and out of jail, their dads were in and out of jail. You see what I'm saying? Most of the guys that I know that's in bad situation, a parental situation, you know what I'm saying? They was in a situation where they had a single parent, whether it was mom or dad. You see what I'm saying? And the cycle can just continue. It's the same way when you see a lot of women when they grow up in an abusive relationship and then they have daughters, and 9 times out of 10 their daughters end up in an abusive relationship. It's a cycle. It's a vicious cycle. You know what I'm saying? And the reason why this cycle started, it all started because at some point somebody didn't love their kid enough to correct them and put them on the right path. Or somebody didn't love their kid enough to get them to have a close relationship with the Lord. Somebody didn't love their kid enough to correct them when they was going the wrong way. You see what I'm saying? It all stemmed from a lack of love. That's why I told y'all in the last lesson, when we look at these kids out here in these streets, when you look at these guys that's in and out of prison all the time, when you look at our children think they're wilding out, they're not lost, they're just not loved. And that's what's going on. They're not loved. You know what I'm saying? And we're suffering from that. So because this kid didn't get loved in this generation, he's not going to love his kid. And then his kid going to grow up not being loved, might not love his kid. And it just keep on going till somebody finally get in a situation where they get some love and they get to break that generational curse. And I thank God that that's what happened to me. My grandma loved me enough to make sure my butt went to church. She loved me enough to make sure I read my Bible. And she loved me enough to turn my butt up. I still, to this day, I'm a 43-year-old. I ain't had a whipping in probably 20 years, 30 years. And I can still remember some of the whoopings I got from back in the day. You know why? Because my grandma loved me. You know what I'm saying? And that's what helped me break that generational curse. So now I'm trying to do the same with my kids. And I'm praying that my kids will do the same with their kids. And we can stay on the good side of the cycle instead of the bad side of the cycle. So that's what's going on in our neighborhoods. That's what's going on in our black communities. That's what's going on in our poor communities, period. You know, like I said, I've been saying black because I can attest to that because I've seen this personally. But I mean, the same thing happened in white communities, you know what I'm saying, and things of that nature as well. It's not just all straight to black people. It's just, like I said, that's the one I can speak on because I witnessed this personally. See, I didn't realize where that generational curse come from. I've heard of generational curses all the time. I've heard about breaking the generational curses. What can you do to break the generational curses? And God just gave me the answer right here. Love your children. Love your children. Make sure they have a relationship with the Lord. Make sure they stay on the path. Make sure you're correcting them when they're going down the path that they don't need to go down. You know what I'm saying? I know, like I said, I got my grandkids over here, and my grandson, he's about to be 2. And he's getting to be a terrible, so he's saying no and throwing fits. And he did something earlier, and I told him no. And he went like he had his little pacifier like swinging at me, and I popped his little hand. You know what I'm saying? Not spank. I mean, he's on 2, but I popped his little hand, and you know what I'm saying? It made him sit his little self down. Why? Because I'm trying to, his mama don't do it because, you know what I'm saying, his mom, she don't believe in the spanking and stuff. But he come over to Pop-Pop's house, he gonna get his butt spanked. You know what I'm saying? And she said it before. She said, man, he really do love you. Like when I walk in, the first thing he do, run straight to me. You know what I'm saying? He loves the pop. Why? Because I hold him accountable. Kids need that. He knows I love him. I'm not going to let them. Same with my granddaughter. Love her to death. She got those eyes, Sue boy. She got them eyes that, man, I'm telling you, make you melt. And she knows how to work them lashes. But if she get to throwing a fit or something, Pop don't play that. You know what I'm saying? And I know what I'm saying. And when we get them every other weekend, and this might be the only weekend. And like I said, his mom, and I'm not talking about his mom because she's doing all she can. You know, it's really more toward my son than the mom because he should have his butt there doing these things. But when they come over, I make sure that they're gonna behave and they're gonna do like they're supposed to. And it might be the only behavior, the correction they get when they come over our house every other weekend. You know what I'm saying? But I'll make sure they get it because they're going to know that I love them and I love them enough to correct them. And that's what we got to understand. How can we solve this? How can we break this generational curse? How can we get out of this vicious cycle? Love our children. Show our kids that we really love them. You're not showing them you love them because you give them everything. You're not showing them you love them because you're not because you let them get everything they want, let them get away with stuff. You're not showing you show them love you by making sure you spanking their butt when they need spankings, making sure they're in church when the church doors open, making sure you're making the sacrifices to show them that you love them. You're not still out here wilding out doing what you want to do, but you're making those sacrifices so you can make sure that they have the life they have. You know, I tell my kid a long time, like, man, yeah, I love to still go out there and have sex with whoever I want to and smoke weed and part of. I love to be able to still do those things, but I don't because I know what that's going to lead. I know it's not going to be a good example for y'all, and I know it's not going to let y'all see how much that I really love you. And if I want really to make the sacrifice to get those things up so y'all can have a great life. You see what I'm saying? That's how we break that generational curse. And like I said, when I was putting these together, I said I wanted to take my time with this lesson, man. It was so much deep stuff in here. And I'm telling y'all, this is not me being so smart or why, man. This is straight the Holy Spirit gave me this stuff. So when I came across there, I said, ooh, that's a good one there. You know what I'm saying? When you hate number 17, when you hate your children, you curse future generations to suffer from that same hatred. And that's where we get generational curses come from. It comes from us not loving our kids the way we're supposed to. And like I said, each generation, it gets a little worse each generation. So number 17, when you hate your children, you curse future generations to suffer that. And again, just what did the Lord say? He said, I'm going to put an end to your family so it will no longer serve as my priest. All the members of your family would die before their time. None would live to a ripe old age. You will watch with envy as I pour out prosperity on the people of Israel, but no members of your family will ever live out their days. Those who are left alive will live in sadness and grief, and their children will die violent deaths. And how often do we see that go on all around us in the world today? Why? Because we're suffering from a generational curse because somebody at some point didn't love the children enough to correct them the way they were supposed to and keep them on the path they were supposed to go down. And that's why we're still suffering for that till this day. So number 17, when you hate your children, you curse future generations to suffer from that hatred. So then the next verse is actually a reference back to number 13, which is the point we had last week. He said, so God finished out. He said, those who are left alive in sadness and grief, and those who are left alive will live in sadness and grief, and their children will die a violent death. He said, and to prove, and then this Lord come back in verse 34, he said, and to prove that what I have said will come true, I will cause your two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, to die on the same day. So see, it goes back to that, and that's a reference back to number 13. What did I say about number 13? That's why I got number 13. That's why number 13 was this point. It was when you hate your children, your inaction will keep them on their path to this. When you hate your children, your inaction will keep them on their destructive path. See, him not correcting them when he was supposed to, him not doing, loving them enough to make sure they really knew the Lord is what put them on that path. And what the Lord just say, I'm going to destroy them. He said to show you that everything I'm saying is going to come true. Both of your sons are going to die on the same day. And if you know what I'm saying, we won't get to it till a couple of 2 chapters from now. Matter of fact, chapter 4. So it'll be a little while before I get to it. But when we get to chapter 4, we're going to see that both of his sons are going to end up dying the same day. So by their dad not correcting them, you know what I'm saying, it made the Lord hate them. You see what I'm saying? It made the Lord hate his family to the point that the Lord wanted to destroy them. So I didn't just say the Lord hate them just to be saying it. He showed, he said, I'm going to kill both of them the same day. Yeah, and you're going to lose both of your sons in the same day. Why? Because he hated his sons. Because he loved his sons more than he loved God. And because he loved his sons more than he loved God, he never put them on the right path. He never corrected them like they were supposed to. And he never did the thing he was supposed to do as a father. And because of that, they're going to end up being destroyed. So see, that's why the guy, like I was telling y'all last week, the guy in the video said, don't cry, mama. And in this situation, don't cry, daddy. You know what I'm saying? You had the chance to correct your sons. No, even God even sent the prophet, you know what I'm saying, a prophet to warn you about it, and you never did correct your son. Matter of fact, he said you knew what they was doing and you never corrected them. So don't die. Don't cry. Now they about to die, and God told them they're going to be destroyed. So that's a number, but that's a reference back to number 13. When you hate your children, your inaction will keep them on their destructive path. And because he never did correct his children, because he didn't love them enough to make sure they had a close relationship with the Lord, because he didn't love them enough to do the things that he was supposed to do as a father, now they're going to be destroyed. And they're going to be destroyed by God. And you know when God says something, that's it. He knows that it's over for them. You know what I'm saying? So when you hate your children, number 17, that was a reference back to number 13, when you hate your children, your inaction, in other words, not doing anything, is going to keep them on their destructive path. So this is going to be a love one. I know it's been kind of rough tonight, but this next one's going to be a love one. He says, so in verse 35, he says, then, after he said, I will cause your two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, to die on the same day. And then in verse 35, he said, then I will raise up a faithful priest who will serve me and do what I tell him to do. And I will bless his descendants, and his family will be priests to my anointed kings forever. So number 18 is this. When you love your children, and it kind of mirrors, actually, it's the opposite of number 15. Because in 15, I said, when you hate your children, you'll love them more than God. But number 18, when you love your children, you will be sure that God is first in your life. You notice what I said? In your life. I didn't say in their life. Now, of course, you want to be first in their life. But see, if God is first in your life, then guess what? God will end up being first in their life as well. I've told y'all, I'm not going to go back to the story. I've told y'all, my kids would come and say, hey, I see God's hand on me, Lord, Dad, because I know you're praying for me. I see God's hand is on me because of the work you do. Keep doing it. Keep going forward. You know what I'm saying? I can see the blessings of God on us because we know the blessings of God is on us because of what you've done for us, because of what you do for the Lord. You see what I'm saying? So when you love your children, you will be sure that God is first in your life. And again, let's go back to Matthew 6:33. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all the rest of these things shall be added unto you. You see what I'm saying? Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all the rest of these things shall be added unto you. If you make God first in your life, that's how you protect your children. That's how you keep your children safe. You see what I'm saying? Making sure God is first. Because when you do that, he take care of everything else. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people talk to me, you know what I'm saying, man, I get into arguments all the time about people because, you know what I'm saying, I don't know what I'm saying, own a gun anymore. You know, I used to, but I don't. And like, man, you ain't gonna protect, what about protect your house and all that? I'm like, man, look, God is first in my life. If there's something out there that God can't protect me from, then guess what? A gun ain't gonna do it. You know what I'm saying? I really wholeheartedly believe that. You see what I'm saying? I put my faith and trust in God because I know God is first. As long as I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing and I'm in the will of God, you know what I'm saying? I'm staying away from, I'm not doing the thing I'm not supposed to be doing and doing the thing I'm supposed to be doing. God is going to take care of me, but not only going to take care of me, He's going to take care of my family as well. You know what I'm saying? I feel my kids are safe and protected. I've told y'all, I know God loves my kids. He's proved it time and time and again. I know He loves my kids. You know what I'm saying? Because there's situations they should have been in and they should be out of here. But they're still here because I put God first. You see what I'm saying? So if you really love your kid, make sure God is first in your life. If you make sure God is first in your life, that's how you get the grace of God. That's why I tell people so much, you know, say get in your Bible and read your Bible like you're supposed to. Go get your butt up and go to church like you're supposed to. You know, those things are not what gets you to heaven, but it helps to show God that, hey, you are first in my life. You know what I'm saying? And when God knows you're first now, that's how you get that hedge of protection around you. Again, we mentioned before, look at Job. What did God say about Job when the devil came? They said the devil was walking around the earth back and forth, you know what I'm saying? Looking at the earth. And what did God say? You see my servant Job? Man, he loves me. No, he hates evil. He don't have nothing to do with evil people. He loves me. My servant Job, oh man, that's my dude. You know what I'm saying? And what did the devil say? Yeah, because of the hedge of protection you got around him. I guarantee you, let you take that hedge of protection down and let me touch him. I guarantee you he'd curse it to his face. Why did Job have that hedge of protection around him? Why did Job have that hedge of protection around his kid? Because he loved God. God was first. You know what I'm saying? You see that first description of when it talking about Job, it was basically saying God was first in Job's life. If you read the description of Job, the easiest way to sum up Job's life was God was first in his life. That's why his kids had that protection. That's why Job was so rich. That's why he had the things he had. That's why he had the grace of God on his life, because God was first in his life. And if you want God to be to have the grace of God on your life and the grace of God to be on your children's life, then make God first in your life. Because you come to making everything else first. You know what I'm saying? You making you putting the kids first. You putting your job first. You put your social media first. You putting everything else first. Then you're not going to truly have the grace of God in your life. And that's what opens you up to the attacks. And that's what we don't realize. That's what causes that chink in our armor, because we put everything else before God. But if you want your kids to be protected, that's why I go to sleep at night. My sons work at night. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? But I sleep comfortably at night because I know God's protection is on them because He's first in my life. You see what I'm saying? I hate when my kids have to go off to school, especially school these days, man, all the school shootings and bus wrecks and all this stuff. You see that stuff? But man, I don't worry about that because I know God is first in my life. Not saying that stuff can't happen, but I know if it happened, it's because it was God's will anyway. Because I know my kids are protected because I put God first. You know what I'm saying? I told y'all, my buddy, I went down to Houston, and my buddy supposed to go on soul winning with me. And, you know, and I was joking, but I wasn't. But you know what I'm saying? When we was talking about it, I said, man, wherever. He said, where you want to go? I said, man, wherever's the most dangerous. I said, if you can possibly get shot there, that's where I want to be at. You know what I'm saying? And I was joking, but I was serious. And the reason why I was saying, because I know I'm protected by God, because God comes first. I go out and I do these things that I do because I want God first in my life. God is first in my life. You know what I'm saying? I want to give my whole heart to God, and I'm still ain't there. I know, because I still don't. I feel I think if we truly made God first in our life, we really gave God our heart. No, we would have that power to be able to touch people and heal them. You know what I'm saying? Just by prayer, just like the apostles did. You see what I'm saying? We would have the power. Jesus said, "You can do the same. If you had the faith of mustard seed, you can do the same thing that I'm doing or more." You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm trying to build I know I still ain't there just yet. You know what I'm saying? But I do put my full faith and trust in God. That's why I don't mind going to the projects every Saturday knocking on doors. You know what I'm saying? I don't care how dangerous it is because I feel I'm protected. I take my kids with me. You know what I'm saying? They didn't go with me when I was down in Houston, but every Saturday when I'm here at home, I take my kids with me. If I didn't think they were protected by God, I wouldn't be taking them with me. I'd just be going to projects by myself. Or I'd find some other sucker to go with me. You know, maybe they get shot. I take them with me because I know we're there, we're protected because we're putting God first in our life. You see what I'm saying? So if you want that protection of your life, you want those blessings, what did he say? He said, I will raise up a faithful priest who will serve me and do what I tell him to do, and I will bless his descendants, and his family will be priests to my anointed kings forever. See what I'm saying? And what's the difference between that priest that he's talking about there that's going to get these blessings and the priest, and Eli the priest that's just got his blessing taken away? They didn't love. This one would love his kids, put God first, and love his kids, and Eli didn't. And that was the difference. You see what I'm saying? God's grace comes from love. It's all still, everything goes back to love. You know what I'm saying? We look at what's going on in our country, is love. Like I said, it's all love. It's a lack of love. It's not that so many people doing, not so many bad people doing bad. It's not enough good people doing good. You know what I'm saying? And really, it's just not enough people loving it. Yeah. If we follow that's why y'all remember when Jesus was talking, they tried to catch him up, and then one guy asked him, like, what's the most important commandment? What was the most important one? And he said, to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart. You know, which we was talking about before, love thy God with all thy heart. He said, but there's the second one that's just as important, and that's to treat every man as you would treat yourself. In other words, love everybody the same way you love yourself. If you wouldn't do that to yourself, you shouldn't do that to nobody. If you wouldn't want that to happen to you, then you shouldn't do that to them. You see what I'm saying? If we did that, if we truly loved each other, well, we treated everybody the way we treat ourselves, man, this world would be great. We can live in paradise. God has given us the keys to live in paradise. He's given us everything we need to have a good, prosperous, successful life. We just don't do it because of our pride and because of our hatred. And that's what we're suffering. Our world is suffering from the generational curse of hatred that's constantly being perpetuated every single generation. Whether it's racism, whether it's poverty, whatever, it all stems back to a lack of love and an abundance of hatred. Everything that we're going through, all the problems that we see today is because of a lack of love and abundance of hatred. That's what happens. You see what I'm saying? But when you really love your children, when you really love those, you will make sure God is first in your life. If you make sure God is first in your life, your children will be blessed. Your children will be protected because they will be of God, because you are of God. You see what I'm saying? So it all stems back to, you know what I'm saying, starting off in the beginning, where do you start? You know what I'm saying? That's why it's so important as parents to make those sacrifices. That's why it's so important as parents to lay down those foundations, because it all stems from us. And you know what I'm saying? And I didn't realize as I started reading this chapter, it's not only going to affect my kids, but it's going to affect everybody that comes along. It's going to affect my grandkids. It's going to affect my great-grandkids, my great-great-great-grandkids. It's going to affect all generations. Because if I go down a path where I don't love my kids, which I didn't do, but if I went down that path, then guess what? The cycle just continues. Because I already suffered from the being caught up in the cycle because somebody didn't love their children in my family. You know, whether it was my great-granddad or my great-great-granddad or my great-great-great, I don't know, somebody down there dropped the ball. You know what I'm saying? And I suffered a horrible childhood because of it. You know what I'm saying? But I thank God that I did have a grandmother that came in and loved me enough, that gave me the wisdom and the strength I needed to break that curse. And we got to understand that. So if you want your kids to not be under that curse, if you want them to have that protection on their life, and you want them to be blessed, then make sure God is in your life first. And if God is in your life, it's going to trickle down to your kids. Whatever you do trickles down to your kid, good, bad, and ugly. If you do something good, it's going to trickle down to your kids. You do something bad, it's going to trickle down to your kids. You do something ugly, it's going to trickle down to your kids. So the best thing to do is make sure God is first in your life, and if God is first in your life, then your kids will be blessed because of it. So number 18, when you love your children, you will be sure that God is first in your life. And the last one, y'all, we made it through. I'm still within my time. I'm hoping I'm not rushing it, because I do want to get this in. I know it's a holiday, but you know what I'm saying? I just want to make sure I got this in. So the last one, number 19, is going to be this. It's going to be my last verse, and we're going to finish up this lesson. It says, so in verse 35, it said, then I will raise up a faithful priest who will serve me and do what I tell him to do, and I will bless his descendants, and his family will be priests to my anointed kings forever. He said, but here we go, last one, and it's going to be end with hate. I hate to end on a bad note, but it's going to end with some hatred. He said, then all of your descendants will bow before his descendants, begging for money and for food. Please, they will say, give us jobs among the priests so we will have enough to eat. So number 19 is this. This is going to be the last one. We're going to finish on this point. And this is something that I hadn't talked about. I kind of mentioned it, but I hadn't talked about. But again, this is another one I did not think about until I put this lesson together. That's why the Holy Spirit, that's why I love the Bible, man. I love when the Spirit touches my heart and gives me a message. Number 19 is this. And this is something you probably ain't recognized, or you probably have recognized it by now. But number 19 is this. When you hate your children will be, when you hate your children will have to depend on the love and mercy of others. You see what I'm saying? When you hate your children will have to depend on the love and mercy of others. You see what I'm saying? And then he's saying there, he said, because you didn't do what, he said, from now on, from now on, he said, all your descendants will bow low before his descendants, begging for money and food. And then they will say, give us jobs among the priests so we will have enough to eat. See, they're going to have to depend on this righteous man's work, this righteous man and his descendants, so they can eat and they can survive. See, and that's what you do. When you hate your children, you put them at the mercy of others. You know what I'm saying? And when I thought about that, I was thinking about, step parents. That's what step parents is. We don't realize that. That's what step parents is. When somebody steps in and they're willing to be a stepfather or stepmother to your child, you know what I'm saying? That's straight out the mercy and the love of their heart. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't always work out. Y'all know people that the dude wanted to date the mother, but didn't want nothing to do with the child. That has happened before. You see what I'm saying? And then you also have situations where the dude wanted to date the mama and he took the child in, or the dude wanted the mama, or vice versa. You know what I'm saying? It's happened. But it's on you when you put yourself in, when you hate your children, you put them in a situation where they depend on the mercy and the love of others. You know what I'm saying? Because if you really love that child, you know what I'm saying, it would have started from the beginning. You know what I'm saying? Why hook up with somebody or be intimate with somebody that you know is no good from the beginning? I mean, there's so many obvious red flags in the beginning. This dude already got, 3-4 baby mamas and 3-4 kids that he ain't taking care of. Why would you hook up with him and be number 4, number 5? You see what I'm saying? You don't realize you putting your kid in a bad situation from the beginning. You already setting them up for failure, kind of thing. So I know a friend of mine, I mess with her about all the time, and we just joke each other because she mess with me about being late. You know what I'm saying? But her baby dad, she had 2 kids by this guy, and this guy already had 3 kids before her that he wasn't taking care of. And then she had a baby by the guy, and then, you know what I'm saying, he wasn't taking care of that baby, and then she ended up hooking up with him and getting pregnant by him again. And he's like, man, they weren't supposed to have it, it was just a hookup thing, but still, why even put yourself in this situation? You see what I'm saying? Putting them kids in this situation. Now, don't get me wrong, she's doing a great job as a mom, and she's taking care of those kids. You know what I'm saying? They're really good kids. I mean, her older sons, just super intelligent, really good kids. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, they have to grow up not having their dad around. You know what I'm saying? Even though mom, she wouldn't put in the extra effort to take care of their kid, they're still going to always have that, why didn't my dad love me? You know what I'm saying? Mentality. Like I told my oldest son, like I said, he was my stepson. I stepped in, and by the grace of God, you know what I'm saying, I had love for him. I did what I can for him. But he can still tell he's suffering from the fact that his biological dad never really wanted nothing to do with him. Never made no effort to do anything for him. Because especially when you grow up, and you start having your own kids, and you start like, man, like, nah, I want to do my kid. How can he do me like that? That's why when my son said that stuff the other day, like, man, you know what this did to you. Why would you do that to your kid? That's why I got on so hard. You know what I'm saying? You know what it did to you. Why would you do that to your kids, kind of thing? You know what I'm saying? So even though somebody's willing to step in and step up to the plate and take on the responsibility of taking those kids in, still you put them in a bad situation because they don't always happen. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I know of time when guys stepped in and they want nothing to do with the kids. And I know time when guys stepped in and they embraced the kid. Like I said, when I stepped in and my wife told me, well, she my baby mom at the time. My girl at the time. But she like, look, you know what I'm saying? I got this kid, you know what I'm saying? He's my heart kind of thing. And me and you cool and everything. But if you can't take my kid in, so you can't love him like he was yours, then, this ain't going to work out kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, man, I love the little kids. I love the little knucklehead. I didn't realize he was going to grow up to be a big knucklehead, but I love the little knucklehead. Raised man, he was my own. But still, he was at my mercy. I could have been a jerk and could be like, no, screw that. You know what I'm saying? Or lied and told her that I would, and then got in and treated him like crap. You know what I'm saying? How many times you had a situation where the stepkid got beat, mercilessly? You know what I'm saying? The stepdad would come home drunk and, beat the kid. You know what I'm saying? There's several people that I've talked to that don't believe, in God or don't go to church or anything because they had a stepdad that would drink and beat them all the time. You know what I'm saying? Wasn't even his real dad. You know what I'm saying? Or stepmom, little girls that's out here in the streets, you know what I'm saying, promiscuous out in the street because they stepmom tore them down at every point they got. See, when you don't love your children enough to make a good decision to make sure the person that you're hooking up with is going to be a good partner for you from the beginning, you're already setting them up for failure. You see what I'm saying? Because you're not even loving them from the beginning because you didn't you're not having sex or hooking up with somebody that you know that's going to help you stay in a good position. And sometimes, that you can get fooled. You know what I'm saying? I ain't saying it's 100% foolproof. Sometimes the guy might start off good and tell you everything you want to, or the woman might start off good and tell you everything that you want to hear, and you think, oh, this will be a good one, and then they, you know what I'm saying, it happened to be like, oh man, I'm out of here. You know what I'm saying? It ain't always apparent, but there's sometimes where it's apparent. You know what I'm saying? There's a couple of times, like I said, with my girl, like, man, you the dude, he wasn't taking the first kid you had with him. Why would you have a second one by him? And like I said, she loves her kids dearly. She take care of her kids like a great mother. Don't get me wrong. But still, why? I just don't understand why. You know what I'm saying? Now, like I said, I mess with her about it from time to time, and we just joke about it because we had that kind of relationship. But at the same time, on serious note, like, why subject them to that? You see what I'm saying? And we gotta understand, we head out here when we out here in these streets and we just hooking up with people for the sake of hooking up with them. You know what I'm saying? Not knowing they're not a good person. Oh, he got 6-pack abs. You know what I'm saying? But you know this dude ain't got no car. He ain't got no kind of job. He ain't got no kind of motivation, anything. You know that he's bad. Matter of fact, for a perfect example. So let me get some water. For example, y'all know I got an older brother, well, not older than me, but an older brother than the brother I got, but I got custody of him as well. And I'll never forget the girl that's his baby mama. Well, she passed on now. But I remember when they first started like dating or whatever. I remember, you know what I'm saying, like it seemed like it was starting getting kind of serious. And I told the girl, and she thought I was trying to like get at her or whatever, and I wouldn't. And it was one day like he was going somewhere, and I was at the house, she was at the house, and I told her like, man. You know what I'm saying? I tell her, look, I love my brother, but I'll let you know right now, my brother's not a good dude. Like, all he do is take women and, you know what I'm saying, basically use them and abuse them, and when they're no longer convenient to him, he gets rid of them. Like, you know what I'm saying? Why would you say? And she's like, no, I love you. He's different. He gonna treat me different. No, she was country. He gonna treat me different and all that. I said, I'm telling you, he's not a good dude, and you're really gonna put yourself in a bad situation if you get too heavily involved in him. And she went back and told my brother that I said it, and I was trying to get her and all. It kind of caused a beef between us for a little minute, you know what I'm saying? But I left it alone. Well, guess what? Lo and behold, 5, 6 years later, 2 kids. He beating her all the time to the point, cheated on her the whole time. And it got to a point to where one day he left to go somewhere, and she had to have somebody come get her. She packed up the kids and left and went to somewhere where he couldn't find them. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, he didn't get to see him for like 5 or 6 years. And the only reason why he got to see him after this, she ended up developing brain cancer and ended up passing away. And she wanted her kids to have a relationship with the dad, so she was going to be gone. You know what I'm saying? But bad situation. I mean, he beat that girl. He treated that girl horrible. Had another baby by another girl after him and her had been together 5, 6 years. You know what I'm saying? She was the one working. He wasn't working. He just sitting around the house smoking weed and drinking all day while she went out to work to provide for the family. I mean, exactly what I told her was going to happen happened. You see what I'm saying? All that could have been avoided. All that could have been avoided had she listened in the first place. You know what I'm saying? Had she loved the kids enough, even though she didn't have the kids, had she loved them enough to make sure that, hey, this person just gave me this wisdom. I should take this wisdom and use it to make sure that when I do have kids, I'm going to be in a better situation. That's what I said when I had my kids. I said, man, when I have my kids, I want to be in a situation where my wife don't. I said, even if I have to work 100 hours a week, that I don't want my wife to have to work. Because my mama having to work and leaving me to be watched by anybody else was willing to do it, is how I end up being molested as a child. How I end up being abused as a child. So I said that when I get older, when I have a partner, I want somebody that's gonna be willing, because you don't get that a lot today. These days, we got Miss Independent, the whole feminist movement, and don't be a mom and stay home, all that. So it's hard to find a woman that's willing to stay at home and take care of the house and the kids these days. And as I said, I'm not the person that's gonna be my girl or my wife or my baby mom, whatever, mother of my children, gonna be somebody that's willing to be a stay-at-home mom. And my wife has done so for 20 years. But now because of inflation, she got to get her butt back out there. You know what I'm saying? Start working. She just started working officially last a couple of weeks ago. But my kids are all teenagers now. They can take care of themselves basically now. They're not still little babies. You see what I'm saying? And they know what they need to do to protect themselves. But that's something that I wanted to put them in a situation before I even had them. I made that up in my mind that I was going to love them enough that even if I had to work 100 hours a week, I would make sure that their mom be able to be there with them. And I've done that. I've actually, before I got this job that I'm at now, for about 2.5 years, I worked 100 hours a week. I almost killed myself, to be honest. You know what I'm saying? I almost worked 100 hours a week to make sure that my wife would be able to stay at home to take care of our kids. Why? Because I loved them. I was willing to make this sacrifice from the beginning. So when you don't love your kids, you don't realize that you put them, you don't love your children. A lot of times you put your children in a position where they have to be dependent upon the love and the mercy of others. You know what I'm saying? Step parents come in. Like I said, sometimes you get a good step parent, sometimes you don't. You know what I'm saying? Or, every boyfriend is this in this situation. You seen it joked about in movies, are you my new daddy kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Constantly going through that cycle of trying to find the right person to be around your children. And these dudes these days, and most of them ain't worth a flip. You know what I'm saying? Most of these guys, you don't want to be around your children. You know what I'm saying? I even remember, like, even with my dad. I think I told you, I'm glad as I got older, I used to be, you know what I'm saying, kind of upset that he wasn't around. But now that I'm older and I understand, I'm glad he wasn't around because he wouldn't have been good for me. You see what I'm saying? So, again, you got to understand that when you hate your children, you put them in a position to be at the mercy of others. And that's what happened to Eli. Because he never corrected his children, because he never put them on the right path, because he didn't make the sacrifices, the right sacrifices, and make sure they had a relationship with God, he put them in a position where now it says all of your descendants will bow low before his descendants, begging for money and for food. Please, they will say, give us jobs among the priests so that we will have enough to eat. He put them because of his inaction, because he never corrected his children, not because he never loved his children enough. Now he got a generation curse on his children. And again, it's going to come true. All this priest line going to die like at once. You know, so they're going to end up dying out. You know what I'm saying? They subjected to generational curses, and now they subjected to the love and mercy of others. Hopefully others will have the mercy and the love enough for them to provide for them so they'll be able to survive. These are all things that happen when we hate our children. We don't realize we're doing it. You know what I'm saying? But we don't realize what our actions are doing. And that's why I want to do this. That's why I said this is such a deep lesson. I know it took 4 weeks to get it done, but I didn't mind taking the time. I hope y'all didn't mind. I know, Nick, you've been here the entire time. That's definitely occurred. I appreciate you. But I'm glad. I hope this helped y'all more than anything. I hope it opened your eyes to what's going on in our world more than anything. And especially if you have some children that you come across on a regular basis in your life and you see these things, maybe you can be that ray of hope in their life. Maybe you can be that one in their life that show them the love so they don't fall into this vicious cycle of repetitive vicious cycle of violent death. What he say? He said, no members of the family will ever live out their days. Those who are left alive will live in sadness and grief, and their children will die violent death. Hopefully, we can be the ones that start breaking, the ones that's watching this lesson, spread this lesson around, tell people. So hopefully, we can be the ones that start breaking this vicious cycle of the generational curse that's leaving so many of our kids and our young people decimated. So that's it, y'all. We finished it. We made it through. Woo! Made it through. I hope I didn't go too fast. I feel I was talking kind of fast. I would try not to, but I hope y'all were still able to be helped by this lesson. Such an important lesson, but I did want to go ahead and get it finished up tonight so we can jump to something a little different next week, and then we'll jump back into the book of Samuel. So I thank y'all for joining me tonight. I know it's a Labor Day. I really didn't expect anybody to be here, to be quite honest. So for y'all to be here, that's definitely encouragement, and this is why I continue to do it. You know what I'm saying? Whether somebody was here or not, I was still going to do this lesson, and I was like, well, I just do it, and if nobody comes in, they can just watch it later on, because that's what a lot of people do anyway. They watch my post later on. But I thank y'all for being here with me tonight. I really do appreciate that, and definitely encouragement. Of course, I'm going to go ahead with my ending announcements. If there's anything in particular you would like for me to discuss that I haven't discussed already, y'all can please inbox me and let me know any stories or just some subject that may have been on your heart, burning your heart. Like, Brother John, I've been feeling this way about this. You know, would you mind doing a lesson on it? And I will work that into my lesson plan. Let me know. As of now, my game plan, I know we're in Samuel. We're going to continue to go through Samuel. But like I said in the beginning, I did a lesson, a sermon at the church last Sunday, and it was called Hating the Truth Because You Love the Lie. And I'm going to do that. My game plan is over the next couple of weeks. It'll probably take me a couple of weeks to get through it. So the next couple of weeks, I'm going to do that, and then we'll jump back into this book of Samuel. Just because we've been in Samuel for like 6 weeks straight. So just take a break from it for a little while, and then do this lesson, then we'll jump back into it. So God willing, next Monday night, 7 o'clock, be back here for the sermon, Hating the Truth Because You Love the Lie. That's going to be the game plan. But like I said, if y'all got anything else you want me to talk about before we jump back into Samuel, just inbox me and let me know. Be sure to keep sharing the videos, telling others about it. It's been a blessing that the ministry has grown. I went from having 5 or 10 people to almost 50, into it's on average about 70, 80 views. So I mean, that might not be a lot to when you think of all these other influencers, but that's a lot to me, and I appreciate y'all being there. And again, it's not about the numbers. It's just what it touched my heart is that it's that many people that want to hear the truth. So that touches my heart. So continue to share the video, tell the people about it, so we can continue to get this truth out there and help build a better world and help people build a relationship with the Lord. Of course, as always, if you're not saved, you're not 100% sure that if you was to die today, you would go to heaven, please reach out to me and let me know so I can go over the gospel with you, set some time up to go to the gospel with you, help you make that decision, because it's the most important decision you ever make in your life. If you need any kind of spiritual counseling, anything you want to discuss Bible-wise or anything like that, just reach out to me and let me know. I will schedule some time with you so we can go through that. As always, my Lost Sheep people, I see a couple of y'all on here. We will be meeting tomorrow night, God willing, at 6 o'clock at River Lake Baptist Church. Might be a little bit late. My daughter has an appointment at 3:15. So I'm praying that we'll be able to get through with her appointment, because if I don't get on the road by 4:30, I'm going to be late. So hopefully we'll be able to get through with the appointment and I'll be able to get on the road to get y'all. So I might be a little late, but Lord willing, we will still meet tomorrow somewhere between 6 and 6:30 tomorrow night at the church. And as always, if you want to catch some of my old sermons, you go here, youtube.com, God's Service / Lost Sheep Ministry, type it in just like that, and you can go and catch my old sermons. I have been slacking. I have not put about the last 6 or 7 up. Definitely this whole series haven't been put on there yet. But hopefully I get some time over the next couple of weeks and I will finally get that updated, and all of my sermons will be on YouTube as well. So with that being said, man, I hope y'all had a great Labor Day. Hope y'all got to enjoy some barbecue. I got this big plate waiting on me. That might be why I was talking so fast, because I'm trying to get to this plate before my kids get to it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm about to go give me some grub before I take my butt to bed. But I hope this helped y'all. I hope y'all enjoyed this series. And again, I hope it just open your eyes up and open your heart up to see what we need to do. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, that's the answer to the generation curses right there. We just got to love our kids. You know what I'm saying? So if it's not something that you've been doing, please start doing it. And if you see the opportunity, you got to do it, whether it's your kids or other kids, please start doing that. It's vital for us to be able to get our people back to where we need to be, back into the presence of the Lord. So with that being said, I'm going and pray. I'm get out of here, y'all. Dear Lord and Father, thank you so much for watching over us. Once again, thank you for this wonderful session. Thank you for watching over us and blessing us and guiding us, giving us this opportunity to share your word here tonight, Lord. Thank you for letting your spirit work upon our hearts, Lord, and just, man, just revealing these truths. Like I said, I've read this book of Samuel so many times, and I just never thought about it like that. It's so deep as far as what we need to do to get back to where we need to be for you, Lord. And it's all about love. It all goes back to love. You are love, and it all goes back to love. Loving our children, and you know, that's where it starts. Loving our children. We love our children. They love their children, and it can keep going down. But if we hate our children, it's going to continue as well. And we just thank you for giving us the wisdom we need so we can break that vicious cycle. Now, give us conviction of our hearts that we may do the things that we need to do to break this cycle. Because it's one thing knowing, but it's another thing to do it, Lord. So I just thank you for all the people that was here tonight. Thank you for this day off. I pray everybody had a good day off. But more importantly, I thank you for the faithfulness of these ones that tuned in tonight to hear your word. Even though they could have been doing other things, they decided to be here and let me run my mouth and be all long-winded running my mouth, talking about how good you are, Lord. But I thank you so much for everything. Actually, keep us all safe as we finish up this night. Actually, be with all my people and keep them safe and protected as they go about the night. Be with all your people, keep them safe and protected as they go about the night, and just watch over us all, Lord. I pray for that day, Lord, that we, as the world as a whole, we will humble ourselves, pray, seek your face, and turn from our wicked ways so you can hear from heaven, forgive our sins, and heal our land. Continue to be with me and my family in this ministry. Continue to use us in a mighty way to do the work that you have for us to do, to guide people towards you, help them build a relationship with you, Lord, and just continue to be with us all so we may honor and glorify your holy name and actually build your kingdom. We love you so very much. Thank you for all you've done and given, and we say this prayer in your wonderful Son, Jesus' name. Amen. So again, thank y'all for joining us tonight. I really appreciate y'all being here. Such an encouragement, because like I said, I know it's Labor Day. Y'all probably got real barbecue sauce all on your mouth and stuff, but you're here with me, so I definitely appreciate y'all being here. Miss Jeannie, hopefully you can make it in tomorrow. If not, you know what I'm saying, it's always a pleasure to have you guys. I'm definitely praying for you and Nate. And again, y'all just be safe tonight. Continue to pray for me and my family. I continue to pray for y'all. And until the next time, peace. Watch your back and pray. Peace.